My wife Lynn and I were blessed with two children, Jonathan and Nathan. On December 20th, 2010, we lost our younger son Nathan to suicide. As a parent, I knew that my children could face problems like cancer, car accidents, drugs, and alcohol. I knew those problems existed. Now I understand that problems with the mind and emotions are also real and potentially tragic, but treatable. I would like to share our journey with you and tell you what we wish someone had told us when we were raising our boys. Our experience has shown us that there's a time when love is not enough to deal with everything a child will encounter. We believe there is a missing ingredient in raising children and that parents need to be informed about it. As a child, Nathan was a cute little boy. He was inquisitive and bright. He loved animals and grew up into a healthy young man. He was on the quiet side and had normal adolescent struggles, and he loved to jet ski. Nathan took the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test in his senior year of high school and qualified for the Navy's nuclear program. During his 2 years of training, he called us weekly for long conversations and came home for visits whenever possible. After completing his training at the top of his class, he was assigned to Guam to serve on a fast-attack nuclear submarine. He came home for a 30-day leave and then left for Guam on December 14, 2010. Shortly after arriving, he called to give us his new phone number. Part of the call was accidentally recorded on our message machine. I'd like to play that recording for you. 2 days after this phone call, we received a disturbing call from his squadron commander to tell us that Nathan was missing.
So, are you alright? Yeah. Yeah. Good flight? No. No, we're taking it again. No, why? Too long. Too long. You have something to write? Yep. 714867510.
The next morning, my wife saw 2 uniformed Navy officers coming to our front door, and our world was turned upside down. A slideshow of the next portion of our life shows images that we would have never dreamed possible. Our once healthy son in a Navy uniform lying in a casket. The funeral service, the flag-draped coffin, being lowered into the ground and placed in a concrete vault, and the broken sod and flowers that cover a freshly dug grave. That day, we started on a long journey to understand how this could have happened. We loved our children just as you love your children, and would give anything for them. My wife, Lynn, illustrated that love by facing death after giving birth to Nathan. Due to an extremely rare complication, she ended up in intensive care, underwent 4 surgeries and a month's stay in critical care at the University of Michigan Hospital after Nathan was born. We gave our children a caring Christian home. As parents, we homeschooled them, taught them the Bible, took them to church, and spent time with them. We weren't perfect parents, but we did our best to show our love to them. Even with all the love that we could possibly give him, we found ourselves visiting the grave of our once active 20-year-old son. When we got the phone call from the squadron commander in Guam, we were told that Nathan had been found by the base security patrol sleeping outside his barracks, drinking alcohol underage. They checked him out, took him to the squadron office for observation. Nathan left the office without permission and drove off base. Later, the Navy found that he had checked into a hotel and taken his life by hanging. Just before he left for Guam, Nathan spent his 30-day leave with us. During that time, we flew to California for a week of sightseeing in San Francisco and Monterey Bay. We had no indication before he left of any problem, and his friends have told us the same thing. So we're faced with the questions, why would he decide to take his own life? Here's a portion of a note that he left in the hotel room. As you read it, what do you think might have been going on? Perhaps you would agree with the conclusion that we have come to. The Navy is still investigating his death, but it appears that he had struggled with some kind of pain for a while. Perhaps it was a form of depression and or anxiety. If we showed you a series of pictures of Nathan from when he was a baby until he was 20 years old, you'd see a cute little boy with smiles and happiness in his younger years. But in high school and beyond, you'd see that something changes. The smile goes away. We don't know what the cause was. At the time, we thought it was typical behavior often seen in adolescents. We took Nathan to several counselors to discuss the conflicts that he had with our rules. We were always told he's a good kid, just lighten up. No one mentioned, nor did it occur to us, that it could be something deeper, something in his mind that was not working properly. We've learned from other parents who have lost children to suicide that a person's outward expression is not a definitive indicator of deeper problems. We've also learned that there are many cases of attempted and completed suicides where the person exhibited a happy, outgoing personality. We've spent many hours in thought and prayer trying to grasp the fact that our son, the boy in the pictures, is actually gone. That what he was struggling with was so difficult and painful that he could see no other solution. You might be thinking, I'm really sorry about your son, but I'm not sure this topic applies to me or my children. I think that's a very important issue for you to consider. Do you really need to be concerned about the health of your children's minds? Are problems of this nature really that common? Or was our son just an isolated case? I'd like to give you some information to help you answer that question for yourself. And I'd like to do that first by having you hear from two people. First of all, a counselor that we met with, and then secondly, a forensic pathologist that we worked with that reviewed the autopsy reports from Nathan.
After working with children for a number of years, I've learned that children have a lot of different developmental challenges and emotions, feelings, thoughts that lead to several different outcomes. They create sadness, sorrow, challenges that are hard for them. A lot of children struggle with anxiety, but we just expect kids to get over it. Children shouldn't have anything to worry about, but children do, and this could create depression, could create anxiety, and many children suffer from anxious thoughts, anxious feelings. So children deal with many, many things, and these things left untreated will also go into adolescence and create problems in the adolescent years as well. The real issue is we need to focus on the real reality that children do have feelings, they have thoughts, they deal with difficult things in life, and each of those things, depending on personality, depending upon the child's makeup, will factor into how they're dealing with that. It's a good idea to make sure that the child is doing well and feeling that their issues are being resolved and given the appropriate attention that they need.
My name is Joe Prallo. I'm a forensic pathologist, and as a forensic pathologist, I'm in somewhat of a unique situation in that, first of all, I'm a physician, and secondly, as a forensic pathologist, I'm involved with the investigation of sudden, unexpected, and violent death. And as such, I am involved with the police investigation and the coroner or medical examiner investigation of a variety of death types, including suicides. Suicide is very common. It is of epidemic proportions, and the number of people who are at risk for suicide far outnumber those who actually are successful at suicide. It's a real problem that is occurring in every community in the United States. It is absolutely vital that parents be aware of the possibility that their children may be struggling in various areas in their life, and as such they are at risk for suicide. They're at very real risk for suicide. Another important point and fact about suicide that needs to be stressed is that it touches all groups of people. It is not limited to one race or one gender or one socioeconomic group. Suicide has no bounds. It reaches everyone.
We realize now that we had no idea how significant this problem is. We operated under the belief that if we provided for our children, trained them, disciplined them, taught them our values, that they would be fine. We never seriously considered that they could encounter a problem in their mind. Here's a few statistics that we'd like you to consider. At least 10% of children experience a problem with their minds that severely disrupts their daily functioning at home, at school, and the community. Another 16% have symptoms that cause a functional impairment. And then 9% have a diagnosable problem that is not severe. So 1 out of 3 children deal with something in their mind that's just not quite right. From mild to severe, and less than 20% of those children receive any help. This chart shows the leading causes of death by age. As you can see, suicide is the 3rd leading killer of teenagers and the 2nd leading killer of young adults. These statistics are a lot more than just numbers. They're real families, each with their own tragic story. Here's just one other example of the many that we've talked to. Jody Maxson lost her only son, Shane, to suicide at age 21. Her son's story is an illustration that sadness is not necessarily the only symptom of a problem. Her son was outgoing, well-known, and popular with many friends and a cheerful personality. But on January 15, 2005, the police knocked on Jody's door and informed her that Shane had died. Neither his family nor any of his friends recognized at the time any signs that Shane felt anguished and hopeless enough to take his own life. Since Nathan's death, we have become aware of a reality that we never knew about. Listening to the experience of counselors and doctors and considering the statistics and first-hand accounts of other families has caused us to see that this quote sums up what we now know to be a tragic fact. It is a societal illusion that suicide is rare. It is not. Certainly, the mental illnesses most closely tied to suicide are not rare. They are common conditions, and unlike cancer and heart disease, they disproportionately affect and kill the young. As parents, we took rearing our children very seriously. We read books, we listened to messages, we attended parenting and homeschool seminars, and now we realize that we don't remember ever hearing anything about this problem. And we believe that that is the serious missing ingredient in rearing children. All the love you can give a child may not be enough to solve a problem with their mind and emotions. And I just hope that you see that this is a real problem and something that you need to consider. You can take steps to be prepared for and deal with this problem. We've thought a lot about what we could have done as parents. We've done a lot of reading, and we've come up with some basic ideas of what we wish we had known and had done. We've created a website where we list these suggestions and provide resources to help you carry out these steps. For each of the steps, there's an option of basic actions that wouldn't take a lot of time, and then some extended actions that you could devote even more time to. Just please keep in mind that these issues are incredibly complex, and we're not trained professionals in this area. These are just suggestions, and you should check with a professional before you take steps to treat a problem. As I said, we need to remember the brain is incredibly complex. Scientists have learned a lot, but they are only scratching the surface. There is help for the problems we've discussed, but we should not oversimplify the solutions. Some may say, well, you just need to pray harder. And others might say, well, just take this pill. The solutions have many components, including the spiritual, mental, and physical parts of our life. Please don't make the mistake of ignoring any of these components. Here are our suggestions. I believe you should gather as much information as possible about your family history as it relates to the health of the mind. That should include your own experiences. There seems to be a genetic element to problems with the brain. And being aware of your family history will help you to know what to look for. Secondly, parents need to educate themselves about problems with the mind. There's just a wealth of information available on the topic. We never knew it was there because we didn't see it as an issue to be concerned about. We have links to some of these resources at our website. One thing that we were never taught in any parenting books was the symptoms of depression. Just that alone would have been extremely helpful. So I just want to show you a list of some of the symptoms for depression. Keep in mind that depression is defined as an illness. These are not things that the individual can just change by being told to think differently or snap out of it. It involves a complex mix of chemicals and cells and brain functions and life experiences. We saw some of these in our son, but because we were uninformed, we thought that they were just part of personality or adolescence. We know now that if any of these persist, it can signal a problem, and parents should seek help. You know, we teach our children about many things to prepare them for life. Self-discipline, manners, hard work, finances, and even sex. But what are you teaching them about the health of their mind? Shouldn't your child be aware of the symptoms we just looked at, in case they experience them in their life? We've put some suggested resources at our website for you to use in teaching your children. As you know, it is hard to know what people are thinking or feeling. In addition, society encourages keeping struggles with the mind secret. So it could be very difficult to know if a child is having a problem. We take our children to the doctor for regular preventative health checkups because we don't want problems to go untreated, and we don't have the training to diagnose them ourselves. The brain is part of the body and incredibly complex. Shouldn't parents be proactive in trying to find out if there is a problem with the mind? This could be done by having periodic evaluations by a doctor or counselor, or by using one of the many online assessment tools that are available. We have information about these options at our website. The important thing is to not just wait for a problem to occur. And then lastly, if you see there's a problem, take action. Find a person trained to help children and talk to them about what could be done. Don't underestimate or dismiss the things that you notice. Resist thinking that it's just a phase that the child is going through. Assume that any concerns you have may just be the tip of the iceberg. So in review, here are the suggestions. Find out your family history and discuss it with your doctor. Learn about problems with the mind and emotion. Teach your children about the brain and potential problems that they might run into and solutions. And then check to make sure things are okay, and then please act. This missing ingredient in parenting that we presented to you is not an easy topic to face. Every time I look at Nathan's picture, my first thought is, this cannot be real. My second thought, it is really a fact that people can have problems with their mind that if undiagnosed and untreated can lead to years of agony and even death. I wish somebody would have told me that fact earlier. I hope our experience helps you realize that this is something you need to consider and do something about. Shower love on your children and use all the parenting tools and information you can. But remember that love is not always enough to solve issues related to the health of your child's mind. And your child is too valuable to not take action.